What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Oranda that we performed surgery on in the last video, and we're also going to be doing some huge changes to the Oranda Mega Tank. So make sure you stay tuned to find out more. Hey Fanatics family, welcome back. As always, check out those links in the description and make sure you follow our Facebook page. As I mentioned, today we are going to be taking a look at this Oranda here. Now this Oranda here, if you haven't seen it, I will put a link up in the top of the video, is the Oranda that we performed some wen surgery on and we removed an abscess. Now, that video only came out about 3 days ago. However, it has now been over 7 days. Well, I think we're on the 8th day now since that surgery occurred. Now, I did mention in the video that there was a very slim chance that this fish would survive. However, I am so thankful to say that the surgery that I performed did the job, managed to remove all of the infection, and the fish is doing so much better. The fish now feeds every time I put food into the tank, and also the fish has healed up on the wen area and is doing so much better. So I'm really happy with the fish. Now the fish isn't perfect, it's still a little bit lethargic, and that is why also today we're going to be doing some massive changes to the tank. So I've spoken enough now, let's take a look at this fish. I'm going to put the fish in the bowl, we're going to take some close looks at it and just have a look at the face and see how it's healed up. So here you can see I have bowled the fish up, and you'll notice here on the wen it's actually gone a real dark black colour. Now this fish is developing a huge amount of black. Now I've mentioned it before, I'm not sure if this is some kind of stress response or whether it's just melanin developing within the skin, but you can see that white hazy layer over the black, which is actually new growth and new skin, of which is the wen developing. And on the other side where we did that more lighter wen trim, you'll notice that it's healed up really well, and that actually healed up within about 4 to 5 days. But the other side was a little bit more invasive as we had to remove a lot of that infection. But the new wen has grown over, it's really healed up very well. As you can see here, the fish is very active and very lively, which is really good to see that it is nice, fit and healthy. So overall I'm really happy, and I would say in a couple of weeks the wen is going to fully regrow and you wouldn't even know the surgery was done. Now we've taken a look at that Oranda, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing with this tank. Now you may notice the water is pretty cloudy. If I just grab the camera here and we take a look through the side, just look how green and cloudy that water is. So yeah, that's right, unfortunately it looks like the water is turning green, which means I'm gonna have to fit a UV system onto this tank. Now there's no other way I can do it. Lots of water changes is not gonna solve this issue because this green algae is just gonna come back and back. We have a lot of light on the top of the tank and we have lots of sunlight coming in as well, which is great for the goldfish, but not for the water clarity. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be changing the filter system. I'm going to be keeping the filter as it is, or as it was, in the back corner of the tank, but we are going to be changing the way that the filter works and the setup. Now, not only are we going to do that, but we are also going to remove all of the substrate out of the tank, and I'm going to remove the lily as well. Now, the lily has been growing absolutely great and it's been doing so well. However, the goldfish have just decided to take a liking to it, and Nero, the big black Oranda down the bottom, is constantly munching on the leaves. Now, I would say this lily's probably got about 4 weeks left until it absolutely dies, because Nero has just been smashing all of the leaves up. So what I'm actually going to be doing is transferring this lily here into the outdoor pond, where it's probably going to do better, it's going to get more natural light, and those small little top view ranchu aren't going to really cause too much destruction to it. So in today's video, I'm going to be removing all of the substrate and the lily, and in the video after this, we're going to be installing the new filter system, and then hopefully by the end of next video, the tank will completely have changed. So here you can see the water is so cloudy. The green water is really starting to develop in this tank, and I have to fit a UV system and change the filter system up because this is just only going to get worse. You'll also notice here, look how damaged those leaves are, where Nero especially has been sucking on them, trying to rip them apart and eat them, and that lily just, it needs a natural environment with much smaller fish, natural sunlight where it can grow really well. You notice there are a couple of unfertilized goldfish eggs on there as well, and that is why I'm going to be putting it outside. You also notice I do have a sieve here, and I'm going to be removing all of the sand from this tank. So what I'm doing is I'm using that sieve because all of the water quickly drains off of the sand. I can place it into buckets and rubble sacks, and then I can keep that black sand for a later date. Now throughout this video I'm going to be showing you the process that I will be taking to remove all of this substrate from the tank, and also I'm going to be walking you through the pros and the cons to this method and why I'm actually converting the tank to the bare bottom. Now previously I've done videos where I've spoken about using sand as a substrate, gravel as a substrate, bare bottom, etc. And there are many different ways that you can keep fancy goldfish. Now I would say having a natural sand substrate is much better for the fish in their natural behaviors. They get to sift through that sand, they can look for food, it gives them something to do. However, it does trap a lot of detritus, and when you have a tank as big as this, it is very hard to keep it super clean, especially with a more deep sand substrate. Now, I've noticed not only having that cloudy water, but whenever I do a water change, generally the fish are always spawning afterwards, and they kick up a huge amount of dirt and detritus which is trapped in the filter fleece. And I'll show you a clip of the filter fleece a little bit later in the video, and you'll actually see how dirty it gets. And within about 3 days, that filter fleece is absolutely covered from all of the detritus that the fish are stirring up. Now, I have kept fancy goldfish in tanks with sand before quite a few times, and I've also done the bare bottom approach. Now, I have found bare bottom means you can keep the tank much cleaner and keep the water quality much better. However, on the flip side, having a substrate allows the fancy goldfish to sift through it, as I mentioned, gives them a little bit more natural behaviors, and I guess gives them a little bit more enrichment. So you do have both of those flip sides to it. But here you can really see, now I'm starting to take that sand out, how dirty that water is getting. It is really getting quite filthy and quite mucky, and not only is it harboring dirt and detritus, but it could potentially harbor any bad bacteria and parasites as well. If I was going to do a sand substrate again, I would probably do a much thinner layer, which meant I could clean it, keep it really clean, and the fish could actually get to the bottom of it. Here's that filter fleece I was talking about. That was perfect pure white at the beginning of this video, and after 3 or 4 days that is the color it turns to. These are the Japanese top view ranchu where this water lily is going to be going in. You can see the water is now absolutely crystal clear after I fitted that UV, and I'm so happy with the way the pond looks, and I'm sure these Japanese top view ranchu are going to be very happy with the addition of the water lily. It will give them not only cover from predators, also cover from the sun, and it will also provide them somewhere for them to spawn. Now, the pot the lily was in was so heavy. I cannot stress how heavy it was. I could hardly lift it out of the water, so it was a bit sketchy me doing it by myself, but I did manage to remove it from the tank. Now, I think with the natural sunlight, the lily is going to grow just as well as it did under the strong LEDs in the tank, but it is also going to provide those fish a nice bit of refuge in the outdoor pond. But not only that, I believe they are quite small, so I don't think they're going to really damage it, or they're not going to be able to rip the pads apart like the massive Aranda inside are or have been doing. So I think the lily has a much better chance. Also, obviously, it can overwinter, which it does need. It does need a period where the water cools down, the lily pads come off, and the lily dies back to its root phase, and then it will regrow the next summer. So I think having the lily in the pond in the long term is probably best for it, and it's nice that I can still enjoy it and still look at it. But I think keeping that tank indoors as clean as possible is going to be the way forward, especially for these Aranda, which are much higher quality than the Japanese top view Ranchu I have. Those top view Ranchu in the pond are very, very hardy. They can survive down to really low temperatures. They have been in green water, clear water. They have been in periods where I haven't done water changes for months. They are bulletproof and they are just absolutely happy and healthy in there. So I think having the lily in there, having it over winter with them, is going to be a really nice environment for them. But in the long term, if I want to keep these large Aranda inside, I want them to maintain good skin quality. I don't want them to damage themselves. I want to make sure they don't have any bacterial problems. I think having the bare bottom approach, making the tank as clean as possible, allowing me to siphon the bottom once a week and remove lots of water is definitely going to be the way forward. Although I do really like this natural approach with the sand and the plants, I think I want to try the bare bottom approach to see how the fish do. As well, as you can see, I am removing lots of the sand by now, but the tank is getting very, very cloudy. As I mentioned, not only am I going bare bottom, I'm going to try and grow a really luscious, nice green algae carpet. Now obviously you can see loads of dots on the bottom of the tank, and this is actually because the tank is a double base, which means two pieces of glass have been siliconed together on the base because the tank is so wide and so tall in dimensions. So by having this double base, I have loads of silicone spots at the bottom of the tank, and I'm hoping the green carpet algae is going to cover this. I do already have a green carpet algae on the filter and also growing on the back of the tank, so I don't see why in 3 or 4 weeks I should start to get a nice carpet algae forming on the bottom. At the beginning of this tank setup, I did have lots of diatoms, lots of brown algae developing, but I believe I'm through that stage now. It does come up occasionally on the glass, but not nearly as much as it was at the beginning, and I think that I have the best chance possible at growing the green carpet algae, especially with the natural sunlight that I'm getting and the strong LEDs. Now you'll see I'm siphoning out the rest of the tank, and I've actually got the pipe hooked into a bucket where all the sand is settling at the bottom, and here you can see I've removed all of that sand finally. After about an hour and a half to 2 hours, all of that sand is out the tank. I'm doing a really big water change. Often hobbyists will say do not remove all of your sand substrate or do not remove all of your substrate at once, and I would totally agree with this, because if you remove all of your substrate like I have done in the video today, you can end up with severe water quality issues and massive bacterial blooms and algae blooms as well. However, to counteract this, I'm going to be fitting a very large pond UV system that I believe is for ponds that are around 5 to 8 times the size of this tank. That is going to eliminate any of the algae or bacteria problems I may have. And obviously now I am doing a 50% water change, and I'm going to also follow up in a few days to do another 50% water change once the new system has been added. So I should mitigate most of the problems that could occur. You can have a bacterial problem, so you must keep an eye on your fish, and I definitely wouldn't advise removing all of your substrate at once, especially if you have a small filter system. But you'll notice on my tank I have a very large filter system in the back, which is an internal sump filter, and just look at how much media is in it, which carries huge amounts of beneficial bacteria, and that is why I'm able to remove all of this substrate, because I have around 30 to 35 kilos of biomedia, so I have a nice amount of biomedia and I'm not too worried about removing all of the sand substrate. But on the flip side, if I did have a smaller filter, then I definitely would not advise removing all of your substrate at once. So there we have it, the tank is now filling back up. That was a huge amount of work, cleaning all of that filter media, draining the tank down, getting all of that sand out, but we've done an absolutely great job at it. You'll see the air stones are still running. Now, temporarily I have the airlift that is going to be running on the tank still. However, in the next video, we are going to implement and install the brand new filtration system. It's going to be very similar to what we have here, but we are actually going to be removing that airlift system. Now, I'll talk a little bit about why I'm going to do that in the next video, but just wanted to show you the tank is now filling up, and I'm going to get this system switched over as soon as possible, because once this starts filling up, or once this is full, the water is going to start going green again, because those algae spores are within the water column and they're just going to multiply off of any new nutrients and the nutrients anyway in the water from the goldfish. So that is it for today's video. If you do have any questions, please leave them down below. I have explained why I have gone this route. Now, I can always change back in the future if I want to, but I have explained why I have removed all of the sand, why I'm going bare bottom, and why I'm doing this sort of change to the fancy goldfish system. But that is it for today's video. As I mentioned, in the next video, we're going to be installing the filtration system and seeing what the tank looks like and the difference that this has made to it. As I said, if you have any questions, please leave them down below. As always, thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.